Are you looking for a way to know how much power each device in your house is using? Would you like to avoid a surprise when this month's electrical bill comes? Keep watching, and I'm going to show you a device that will make that happen. Welcome to another edition of Tech Bites with Ron Nutter, your home for all things relating to smart home technology. In this episode, we're going to talk about Sense. This is a device that will help keep your finger on the pulse of how much electricity is being used in your home. Hi, I'm Ron Nutter, and we're going to be working on this together. This content is also available as an Amazon Flash briefing or podcast. Please go to techbiteswithronnutter.com for more information for any items mentioned in this episode. There are affiliate links in the description. If you click on these links, I will get a small commission, but that won't affect the price you pay for the item. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on the subscribe button now and enable notifications. If this video helps you or provides value, please click on that like button. Thumbs up. Now, here's what we're going to be covering. We're going to talk about what is Sense. Then I'm going to show you how to access it from either your smartphone or your PC. And then we're going to go on lessons learned from installation. And then most importantly, patience, grasshopper. The data will come. Let's get started. Initially, when I started looking for something in this category, all I saw were devices that, well, gee, that's nice. And I found some smart home plugs that, well, yeah, that'll show me what I'm looking for. But I wasn't really sold on a whole house electric monitoring solution until I went through 2 months of my bill going through the roof and the power company sending me these charts and saying, I'm using more power than anybody else in the area. And I kind of thought that was the relationship. You make power, I buy power. But apparently they feel a little differently about that. So I started looking, and what I got into was something called Sense. Now, this is a very interesting device. Now, you're going to see some other unboxing and how to get it installed. And I will tell you up front that while it is possible for you to install this yourself, unless you've got a lot of electrical background, pay an electrician. And it wasn't, the bill was a little bit more than I would have thought, in it being a little over $200. And it perturbed me a little bit. The electrician had to go get a breaker because I would have thought he would have had somewhat of a supply of them, but that's a whole nother conversation. There are some safety concerns with this that you need to be aware of. And the main thing is, even if you shut off the house breaker, which is typically going to be above the picture up here. And let's see if we can get to something where it talks about installation. Here we go. Let's get down here, and that'll give some better pictures. And this is everything you get in the box. So, the only thing I didn't get was Sense Solar, because I do have a solar setup, but it's a temporary on-demand deal. So I didn't worry about it. Now, here is where you've got to be careful. This is okay. The picture here in square number 2, those 2 wires at the top are hot all the time. So that's something to be very aware of. Don't put both hands in the panel if you're going to do this yourself. And really, I can't repeat enough, go get an electrician. Yeah, it's going to be a little more money you're going to have to spend. But look at it this way. In case something happens, you could say, well, I used a certified electrician. So that, you'd have less an issue with your insurance company. But really, it was a very straightforward process. Let's go back up here, and you're going to see basically, this is a picture of pretty much what there we go. There's the picture. That's exactly what it looked like in my panel. So everything was pretty much there. I had the electrician put the breaker at the lower right-hand corner. I wanted the breaker that Sense is hooking into to be totally isolated. And that way, it's not going to get, I didn't want it to get mixed in with the others. He put the antenna on the outside. So it took him, once he had the breaker, it was probably less than 10 minutes to put it in. So really, it was, very straightforward, but he also knew what he was doing. Could I have done it? Yeah, I probably would have moved a lot slower than he did. He was familiar with the Sense device, and it was just, wham, bam, and he was on his way. Now, this is going to be a device that do not expect this to give you everything on day one. And let's go here. I'm going to switch over to my phone. Now, this has been running for just about a day. And this is, whoops, try to get the right screen up here. This has been running for about a day. So you're seeing right up here, it says bubble building in progress. Well, eventually it's going to fingerprint everything that's there. And it's very informative. You know, it has several things that if they aren't turned on by default, you will want to, and make sure on notifications, I have all this turned on so that it's going to give me any sort of alert when it defines a new device. If the monitor drops offline, then the Sense Cloud will notify me that, hey, my monitor's not there. Did have a problem last night with it for a few minutes, but I think that was because Sense was doing something in their cloud. And then you get a monthly report emailed to you. Significant energy changes. Gee, I wish I'd have had you last week or last month, because I've never had my bill go up 2 consecutive months. And well, part of it I did find a problem. There was an air conditioning issue. But as you can see here on the screen, it is a lot of things are going to be made available to you, and this is just where the icing gets on the cake. Now, to give you an idea of what other options you're looking at, I'm going to switch over to the desktop view, and let me turn off my ugly mug for a moment here, and I'll go over here to the Sense page where I've got it all in place. And this is going to give you a little bit easier time to look on the graph. Now, trends, you can have it. This is the week. It's only been up and running just, let me look at the clock here, a little over 24 hours. So a week view will give you a little bit more. And now today will probably be the first true day that we will see a full report of what's going on. And it's giving me, it compares with 82% of the other users. Okay, last 30 days. Well, you know what? I just came online, so that's really not going to be a fair comparison. Now, if you want to drill down into the details, this is, starting at today. Now, I already know at this point, even though Sense hasn't ID'd everything, and it's still showing bubble in progress. I was doing some laundry this morning, and that's what really spiked it up. I've got an electric dryer, and it ran the meter started spinning when it came online. So, but then it dropped right back off. So that was the one spike I've had. Now, when you go into meter, this is where you can really drill things down. You can go 15-minute. You can look at it on an hourly basis. I'll probably look at it for the day just to get a sense of what's going on. Here again, this is where I had the washer and dryer running. But other than that, it has been pretty much quiet. AC has not had to run. Temperatures are starting to drop in the area, so that's going to help. For the week, it's going to compress it a little bit more. There's really not enough data for it to see anything, but this is just giving you an idea of what is available. Now, there is a labs button here, and you can actually disable this to where you don't see it, but this is where you get to play with some of the new features they're thinking about. They're not really in production, but it's something that, for example, it looks for motor stalls. With the air conditioner or device that it senses as a motor, if it sees a problem, it will start alerting you that it's seeing a potential problem, which is, it's nice. It's nice to have an independent verification. Now, the power quality, this is what I am very interested in, because I'm in an area where, let's see, I'm on my 3rd power company since moving into this part of Kansas City, and I'm just heard today that we may be going through yet a 4th change. And as you can see, having a little bit of voltage dip. Now, during the night, it did go up. The voltage did go up a little bit, and I would expect that because you're typically going to have more supply than you're going to have demand. And during the day, it did drop down some. And again, there's going to be more demand then there may be supply, so voltage is going to drop a little bit. There's also a whole host of things there. Now, it also does tell you if it's seeing voltage dips and spikes. You can go to the Sense community to get some more information, because it's not officially a support item, but it shows you both legs on the incoming power. So there's a little bit of difference, but again, I wouldn't be that concerned about it, but it gives you some good options. Now, if we look at the device, now this is where I will get it turned on at this point, where there's figures I've got to go plug in and see. Right now it's showing average cost per month, and there's things it doesn't have. So I am waiting for that to go ahead and build itself back up into a normal situation, because right now, as you can see, it's just showing you it's as other, because it hasn't started fingerprinting things yet. And there's one option that I will turn on, and that's where the smart home devices, like the bulbs and everything, that may advertise. Apparently Sense has got some way of really looking at this. So this is where this video will be shot over probably several different days at a minimum, probably a couple of weeks, to let you see how things are moving forward. You can plug in your utility information, so that if you want to see if the utility is charging right, you plug in the figure that you're being charged per watt hour, and then it will go through and build that information, so that when you get your bill, you should be within, I will say, a few dollars to be reasonable. And it may be a little closer than that, but not knowing how it's going to be able to handle the taxes, you probably just be able to calculate the raw charge for the power that's being used. So this is what is available. I mean, it really is pretty straightforward with what's going on here, and I have been very surprised at how easy it was to get things up and running. I will say up front that had a little bit of difficulty with getting Bluetooth to happen. Now, it might have been my phone. I expected that when I heard the little chime when Sense thought it was online, that I would see it. I actually had to restart my phone to get Bluetooth to play nice. Now, once it did, it came up. It saw all the 2.4 gig SSIDs. It does not support 5. Wish it did, but I understand that's a whole design process that they may not want to do at this point. But once I got it online, took just a few minutes. At that point, I had the electrician wait to put the panel until I had Sense contacted on the device, because I wasn't sure how far Bluetooth would carry, or if it would carry out through the stick antenna that was on the outside of the electrical box. So that's what we're seeing at this point. Like, again, it's very straightforward with the different options that are there. It is just going to take some time to learn. One of the suggestions that I've seen, or advisories, is that it may take upwards of 2 weeks before you see it start to properly identify things, and then it may be a case you may have to go in and manually identify some things. But that's something, right now I'm letting it run just to see what it's going to be able to do on its own. This is, again, I'm in the first 24 hours of this up and running. So I want to give you a little bit different approach than you've seen some of the other folks here on YouTube do, to let you see how it's working for me, and just do a video over several different days. As you are installing your latest smart home device, grab a copy of my smart home checklist. This will help you record information about each device as you set it up. This will prove helpful when you need to find out where to get the firmware updates from, or support on that device. Please click on the link that's in the YouTube description or podcast show notes to get to that checklist. You will be subscribed to my email list in exchange for the checklist. I won't share, rent, or sell your information to anyone. Okay, now we're going to jump ahead. Now I'm on day 3, so it's been up and running for about 3 days, and I wanted you to see in real time what's been going on for me, so that it's not just something I put together, and you can see how it's actually discovering things around my house. So let's move on over here, and this is what you'll start seeing when, let me get down here, because I was going to show you now. This is when it starts discovering things. So it's already found fridge. We'll go into that here in just a minute. Always on and other is where it's still trying to kind of figure out what's going on. But now the interesting thing is if you go down here and you look, now we'll see where a couple of days ago it found something called Heat 1. It's not really sure what it is, but in watching the activity, I have a feeling it's probably my Instant Pot, but at this point the furnace is not on this time of year. Then it found fridge last night, and when you find something new, you can tap on that and it will go through a screen. You can actually choose. It had fridge or freezer, and I picked fridge because I looked at what was running between the freezer and the fridge that I've got. So that was up and running, and I've already plugged in the kilowatt hour information. We'll be covering that in another video. And see, at this point it's been on for about an hour. It's probably doing a defrost cycle is my guess. And then you can actually see what it's been doing for that day. It's been cycling on and off for the week, for the month. So there's really quite a bit of information that's available. Now you're going to see me switch back and forth between the smartphone and the desktop because it's easy to use both of the options. So now we'll switch over to the desktop. And it's gotten to the point now, it's been up and running for several days. It's telling me that I've used 16.1 kilowatt hours. And if I want to learn more, and if you really want to drill in, like we can click on fridge, then we can go down here to the stats of how many times it's been on and off in a month, average runtime, cost per month. It hasn't filled in yet, so I'm not, it may still be learning what's going on. Now here are the other devices that it's found, and it will only show an entry on those if it's actually running. At this point, Heat 1's not on, so it doesn't know about that one. Always on are devices that it's always been finding on. It hasn't really gotten any more fingerprinting done, and this is where I'm going to let this run for about 2 weeks before I really start turning things up. Now you can always see what's going on by going to meter, and you can actually see, in pretty level detail what's going on. Now, if you go by hour, it becomes a little more manageable, and you'll start seeing different things. Like I've got a spike going on here, and that's usually when the air conditioner turns on. And if I go by day, then it starts squeezing down a little bit more, and it hasn't been really running long enough to make week or month really look like much. But now let's go to labs, because this is where it's now starting to show enough information that really helps me understand how clean or how good the power is, because it's been up and running now for several days. So it's gonna, it's got a little bit of sag in the afternoon, which is usually when there's more demand, so I'm not surprised about that one. I'm equally concerned about how much it's sagging. At least it's not going much below 120. If it was getting down to 115, me and the power company would probably have to have some conversations, because there's something going on where the power is not getting to the house the way it should. If it starts going over 125, then we've also got to look at things such as light bulbs going out prematurely. And back in the days when you were still using tungsten bulbs, I had a good friend out of state who actually had to buy a special high voltage bulb because the power coming into his residence was around 130 volts, and the power company just really said, well, there's nothing we can do about it. That's just how high it is. Well, that's not really that good, because that would cause premature appliance failure, amongst other things. So that's just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. If we go back here and we can see, we go to fridge, and we've already covered that one, but now this one is where I think it's going the air conditioner system. So it's just going to be a case of what's going to work out the best. And there's all sorts of information available to us. The labs is where you're going to see some interesting stuff. Motor stalls, I haven't seen anything on yet. Power quality, we just in on that one. AC energy comparison, it's not available yet, but you know what? I'm not worried about that one. But you can see there's ways where you can deal with this from both a desktop as well as a smartphone environment. And because the way this is linking into the Sense backend, I was actually watching this today when I was over at a family member's house. So there's quite a bit. You can always be very watchful of what's going on, and you can look at comparison. At this point, I'm well below what it's all the Sense homes are, but let's face it, averages are nice when it actually means something for you. So this is just going to be kind of a day by day situation. There are other options that I can turn on, and at this point, like for example, let me switch back over here. The size of the circles is in relation to how much power that particular item is apparently using. Fridge always on, so as it starts populating more and more appliances, then it's going to give you a more accurate view as to what's going on. And so it shows you what I'm using for the week. There's goals. It's still interesting to see what's going on here with the different items. And then we'll eventually, I'm sorry, you're not even seeing this one. So that's the size of the different devices or groups that it's found. The fridge is the one it knows about. Always on and other it hasn't fingerprinted yet. And I'm seeing very much where this is going to be. It says 2 weeks, and it's going to have to be 2 weeks. And when it hits that point, then I'll start looking at what I've got to do to manually specify those items. And I'm already looking at the forums because I don't want to rush into this, but also I want to make sure that I've got an accurate representation of what's going on. And you can read Sense Saves. This gives you tips and tricks from others in the community. And this is, gentleman is talking here about how Sense saved him $500 because it helped him identify what was going on. And somebody says, well, you could have done that, but look at your thermostat. Well, you don't always put 2 and 2 together. And I've got one of the fancy thermostats, and I've learned more from what is going on with Sense in the short time it's been up and running. So that's what it's done so far. We're still just moving forward very carefully, and you're going to see other days coming in behind us. Right now, this is just day 3, where I've completed 3 full 24-hour periods, and I'm in another couple of days. I'm going to see what else is discovered and do this probably to where I've got at least a week's worth of time covered, maybe a little over, so you can kind of get an idea of what to keep in mind so that your expectations are not going to be caught off guard, that you'll know kind of when to expect things, because reading about when it's actually going to happen versus seeing it is going to be another thing altogether. Okay, now at this point in the video, we're actually on day 7. So just wanted to show you what it was looking like at this point. First, we'll switch over here to the desktop, and this is maybe a little bit easier to look at, but then I also want to show you the smartphone version. So it's kind of tomato with what it's doing. It right now, of course, I would have picked the time for it to not show you the other devices that are running, but that's all right. We can adapt to that. Let's go over here to devices, and it has found in the past few days freezer and fridge. Freezer's in the basement, fridge is up here in the kitchen. So it's done a good job at distinguishing those. Occasionally I'll catch it saying that the fridge is on, but it may actually be the freezer. And it's probably still learning, so I'm not too concerned about that. AC it did finally find that one a few days ago, so that's good. And of course right now it's off, which this is one of the things that Sense has helped me kind of figure out where the sweet spot in the thermometer to set, so that I can, or the AC control, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes I give it different names. Heat one, I haven't quite figured out what that is yet. I use different devices in the kitchen. One's an Instant Pot, one's an air fryer. I haven't quite figured out how it figured those out, but that's something I'll have to dig into. But at this point, it's hopefully these will come down, and these were pretty large when I first got started. And then you can see as it discovers the devices, like here's a garage door. It says 4 times total on. I guess it's on using such little power, it's not really found it, but it does let you know when something is going on. It says I'm using 75% less power. Well, we'll see. It did find a garage door just recently, so that was good. and it has, as it's learned more of the house, so it gives you kind of a running start here of what's going on. And this is the same thing that you can get to from the main menu. You just have to scroll down and look at the bottom part of the screen. So the same information is there in either interface. It's just a matter of what you happen to be using. And if you are on the smartphone and say the other bubble, for lack of a better phrase, is bigger than what you can't see the other ones, then you can do your squeeze and tap, and we'll go over here and show it to you. So you can make it larger, smaller, what it takes for you to see what's going on. So this is something that it's obviously it's going to get better over time. Now, something I want to show you, we talked a little bit the last time about the labs, and this is something I saw pop up the other day, and this is something that from a safety standpoint I really love. We've talked about motor stalls a little bit, haven't seen that happen. Power quality, again, this is a good thing because I'm not exactly the happiest person with my power company, and if they are viewing this video, maybe you'll call me and we can have a discussion. But it does give you how much, peaks and sags. It's showing you how long it's been running at a certain level. It gives you both of the legs coming into the house and what the highest and lowest value on each side is. So that really, and you can download it. So if you really want to get into doing something with Excel, then you certainly can. Now, let's go back to the labs one, and this one just showed up the other day, and floating neutral. Now, if you've not heard of that term before, don't get worried about it because they've got some excellent help you can go to. Basically, think of it as a ground issue. I'm going to simplify it a little bit just mainly because I don't want to get myself lost in the explanation. And you can always see they've got good information on the website where you can really get into details. But here's the importance of knowing if you've got a floating ground. And I was working with a client many years ago that they had a ground problem in their building. They didn't know about it until I happened to put a particular piece of test equipment I had plugged in, and it went berserk because it was having a problem with the ground, and we had to get an electrician in, and it was not cheap, shall we say, to fix it. But anyway, this is one of the things why having Sense is a good thing, because the floating neutral test really is, from a safety standpoint, if nothing else, is if you don't have a good ground and you have a device that needs ground, then that's going to be a good thing from a safety perspective to know where you stand. So this is it. I get kind of tongue-tied at times. There is so much that I see potential in Sense to do, and this list is going to grow. I mean, we're just at week 1. You can get details for the hour, for the day. You can really get a sense for how much your power usage is. Obviously, yesterday it got a little warm. Today it's been kind of quiet, so that's good. And you can see where you'll learn to kind of pick out where things are cycling on and off, and that's the air conditioner kicking in and off. You can, with trends, you can kind of get a sense for how your overall power usage is going. That gives you the instant piece right there. So this is something that I understand we're talking some money, because if you don't catch it on sale, Sense is about $300. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's $300 well spent at this point, and I still have got a whole host of other videos to do. Getting electrician installed ran a little bit more than I would have expected, and I'm going to talk with the electrician about that one. But it was from a safety standpoint. I didn't go into the panel and do something that, while I might have been able to do it from a safety standpoint, was probably better that I didn't. This is going to be probably ongoing. I'm going to do another video here in about another week or so, going from week 2 of what's been going on with Sense, and to really, I want you to see more than some of the other videos have shown what it's doing in a real-time situation. So stay tuned. There's going to be more to come on this one. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, and you probably are at this point, You will see the videos on the screen that are similar to the one you're watching now or other content that YouTube thinks you might be interested in. If this video helps you or provides value, please click on that like button, thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on subscribe and enable notifications. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching.